I worked there for 3 weeks as an inside salesman, and lo and behold, in the 4th week I was an outside salesman. I didn't know the product line that well, but they were a very, very large industrial mill supply house in San Diego and carried a full line of fasteners. They represented Porteous, not Porteous at that time, but Russell Lowe, Russell Birdsall and Ward, Lamson, Allen Manufacturing. They were just a full line good house. They had the attitude that anybody that would buy casters from them, shelving or anything, would automatically buy the bolts and nuts from them. And at that time, I feel that the mill supply houses were doing their job, but the time I felt had come to have a specialist in the business. And at that time, we had very, very few fastener companies in San Diego. Well, I decided I was going to go out and go into the fastener business. But lo and behold, I broke my ribs playing softball, I couldn't lift anything, and I had already rented a 25 by 25 foot storefront. So I went to work at Pomona Fair. I worked various jobs, night jobs, and I drove from Pomona to Los Angeles every day trying to meet distributors who would want to sell some guy with no money and give me some credit. It's small line fastener. Most of you out there wouldn't sell me, in all honesty, and I remember it well. So I finished working up at Pomona. I came home one night, my house was empty. I didn't know if my ex-wife had left me or what, but I went to the neighbors, and she had sold the house. Well, I was in Pomona. I never called her while I was out working. I still don't ever call. My new wife will tell you that. And I had to go ask my neighbors where I lived. So while I was working in Pomona, my wife had moved from a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house with and a 2-car garage to a 2-bedroom apartment with a parking space. Anyway, I was happy. I started cocktailing at that time because I now had money to start my new company that I was going to start. Well, in that 25 by 25 foot storefront that was 2 blocks away from my ex-employer, Google Hardware, I started my business. I went out, I got my business licenses. I should have, my resale license and all that kind of stuff. And I had made a couple of paths in Los Angeles to buy my material from Pacific Coast agencies, would sell me, and also a company by the name of Rollins Steel. Some of the older fellows here will remember it was on Santa Fe Avenue in LA. I was very fortunate. So anyway, I ordered from Pacific Coast agencies a box, 1 box, of every single size that he had in stock. He had grade 2s and 5s from a company named Decker, Nut Manufacturing, and his grade 8s and socket heads were from a company called Strong Carlisle and Hammond. And of course the stainless was from Ferry Capstrew. I started my business with 100 1/4-inch black nuts, 100 1/4-inch plated nuts. That's how much I knew. 100 1/4-inch grade 8 nuts plated in black, and 100 1/4-inch stainless and brass nuts. That was my 1/4-inch nut stock. I learned a lot. Every night after work, I would go around to the back markets picking up boxes, wooden boxes. I made shelves out of those boxes, and there's still some of them in my company which exists today. And many of you here with your gorgeous steel shelving and everything went through the earthquakes in Los Angeles, lost your fasteners on the ground. My boxes were expansion proof. I didn't lose one fastener on the floor. I also went around and met all my competitors. I didn't know any of them at that time. I introduced myself, told them I was a new guy in the block, and Bruce out there will testify that Bill Palmer, who he bought his company from, was one of the fortunate people that could sell me, and I used his inventory to start my business. I was lucky that I had rented my little storefront from a lumber wholesaler, so I also got my lumber to build all of my desks and my front counter. Oh, where am I here? Okay. I looked at my first month in business, and I feel that I should have named company, Melford and Sons or something, because I looked like somebody like you see standing on the street corners, and forced to attest to that with my dress. How I never did dress up. I never did ever wear a suit and tie, and it's changed today somewhat. I had my phone put in and started calling every person that I knew that I had sold to at my previous with my previous employers, and this really paid off. I told them I was a new kid in the block. I was trying to get into the fastener business, and that I had only one thing to sell, and that was service. Well, I was really very lucky. I did not have one fastener on my shelf because I hadn't driven to LA to pick them up. I would not go to Los Angeles and pay for a freight company to haul to me. I was determined I was going to pick it up, and it took this Gene Wolfram forever to get my first order ready. Many of you knew him. He was kind of slow at delivering. Anyway, my order finally got ready. I took the seats out of my Volkswagen bus and own vehicle I owned, and I went to LA and made 3 trips up to LA in a row and brought my first inventory to town. It was pretty nice. I had 10 1-inch heavy brass jam nuts that are probably still on the shelf today. But he stocked them and I bought them. I walked through my store, and before I left, and there were still about 20 or 30 original boxes from 30 years ago that were still sitting there, and I hope that there's someday that they lay themselves out. Yeah, the phone finally rang, and my first order, I thought, God, how wonderful. The guy said, "Can you quote me on 128 5-inch hot-dip galvanized jam nuts?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Pacific Coast Agency represents Dyson." I didn't tell him that. But anyway, I got a price, quoted him, and that was my very first order of business, and I was off and running. It was a beautiful, beautiful order. Well, anyway, Dyson was very good. They shipped the nuts a little bit late, as they always were at that time, and I delivered them. When Dyson delivered them, they delivered them to me COD. And I had paid Gene Wolfram for my first order, and I didn't have enough money in the bank to cover those nuts. So I went to my father and asked him to loan me the money. He said no, and he could have very easily. So I went to the bank, and they said if my father co-signed. So I let my dad co-sign, and I paid for the nuts. My customer was wonderful, paid me in 12 days. I paid the bank off, and I had money left over. Well, I felt I was rich to start out in that manner. Well, anyway, about 2 months later, the bank came to me wanting to loan me money, begging. And I never loaned a cent for the 28 years that I had Mel Supply. I never did borrow 1 cent, except with my partners in other businesses in other parts of the state and in a couple other states. Time passed, and I seemed to be growing at a rate faster than I wanted. I had told my ex-wife that I never wanted any employees, but I had gotten to the point where I needed someone to make deliveries and do my pickups in Los Angeles. I just couldn't do it any way myself. I finally hired a young driver and had him start to make my deliveries for me. I started also buying out any distressed company that I could find, including Mike McGuire's grandmother. I think I got some pretty big orders from Capital with the surplus she didn't want, Mid-State Bow, Dew Common, I can go on and on, Alaska Brass and Copper. I just bought whatever I could. C&D fasteners, Rockford screw products, Dew Common metals. I bought. I just became a real possessive buyer because it didn't make any difference then. You didn't have to certify anything like you poor people are doing today. So anyway, there were a lot of fastener companies at the time going broke, and boy, I was just on a heyday, and I had stock, you couldn't walk down my aisle.